you so much for joining us on our conversation between you and me. We really appreciate your being committed to us and watching our podcast. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how our kids over the years have done or said the silliest things. And there, we all have those stories, I mean, and you want to, you remember even the kids do sometimes. So we're going to share those, which I have done over the years in my column, that's for sure. They were a big topic when I first started out. So they were so young. I mean, that's when they were energetic and doing all kinds of stuff.
But now we're dealing with their grandchildren too.
Yes.
Or great-grands in some cases.
That's exactly right too. So we have some little vignettes that we're going to share. And we hope that you'll be sitting there thinking, oh, I have to tell my story to my kids. So anyway, I'm going to start out with one since, we're into the winter months and Christmas area and everything. Our son and his family always came for Christmas. And they would stay over a few days or so, and that was really neat. So this one year, when my granddaughter was probably about maybe 5 or 6 years old, I think, one morning we woke up, and I don't know if it was Christmas morning or before Christmas. I can't remember now, but
doesn't matter.
She said, "Grandma, there's something moving on the Christmas tree." And what? And I was the only one up then, and she was out in the family room. So I walk over to our Christmas tree, which that year was a real Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And we got it from the Boy Scouts. Put it in the house.
In those years we did. We almost always had real
anymore.
Christmas trees, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I looked at the tree, and you know what? There were millions and millions of little spiders on the tree. They had woven a web around the tree. I mean, it looked like it had.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. So I screamed and she screamed because she, now she knew it was spiders. And
that must have just been scary feeling to see your tree actually kind of moving inside.
And then my husband and my son
gosh.
moved that tree out to the deck. We plugged it in so we could see the tree. But we didn't have any Christmas tree in the house. But my granddaughter's the one that found it. We would have been sitting around there. We'd have spiders all over the house if she hadn't noticed it. But
so what did you do for the whole rest of the year? Did you just stay out on the porch? You light it up out there?
Well, we had to carefully spray it and then, take
it.
And took the ornaments off, and put them away. But that is
really funny.
I don't know if any of you, the tree gets warm, and if it has little eggs and things on it, they start hatching. That's what they do.
Yeah. I just was thinking about Christmases and thinking about my daughter, who was younger than the boys. So she's the youngest one. And because this always happens every year, somebody gets sick. But it's Christmas morning. Her older brother is so sick. So she's, he's the type of kid that he never complains. But she got up, she took care of him.
Aww.
We never knew about it till later that he had been sick, and she cleaned it all up. And this is Christmas morning, so I felt pretty good about that. It's just a silly thing that happened. Well, it wasn't silly to him, but he wasn't that sick, obviously.
Yeah.
But do you ever notice that kids always get sick, like on Christmas?
Yeah.
We used to go to my, I guess I wasn't thinking about upchucking, but this is all about that, because one year we were at my sister's house, Christmas Eve, grandchildren, and the kid, one of them had too much and all over her new carpet, just came out. And I don't know if you had a lot of that stuff with your grandchildren, but they seem to get maybe because there were so many of them, but somebody always seemed to get sick right at Christmas
Well,
time
there's
and do
always
something
some
silly
scenario
like
that happens, especially with kids, because I mean, as you know, it's real spontaneous and
Yeah.
in the holidays and everything. And I remember one year we went to Ohio to our son's place, and they had bought a ping pong table for a Christmas present. And so my husband and my son were down in the basement putting this thing together.
Putting toys
Oh my God.
together before
And it was like,
Christmas.
it got to be like
Yes.
2 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
I said, those kids are going to get up pretty soon.
Yeah.
You know, because they go to bed with cameras. Or,
Yeah.
Flashlights in their
yes.
hands.
Yeah, they're
And
up early.
so they want to get,
5 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
Is it
anyway,
time yet? Is it time yet?
So after a while, it became louder and louder.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and then my daughter-in-law said, well, gee, I haven't really finished all of my Christmas present wrapping. And I said, oh, you're kidding, you know. I mean, we're at 2 o'clock in the morning. And she said, but I don't have any wrapping paper. Oh, gosh. You know, I said, well, what is this, the disaster zone, you know? And so I said, well, get some newspaper, and we'll wrap them in newspaper and put a bow on it or a ribbon or something, you know, so we could get it done. And
Now
we
try and
just
find
made
it,
it to the
but-
last piece of newsprint.
Now try and find a newspaper to do that.
I
Those
know.
years we always had, lots of newspapers.
And people
every
saved 'em.
day. They saved them, yeah, and we'd have the big Sunday papers that were huge with all the ads in them and everything. Yeah, but nowadays they don't have that. But you know, one thing you can do, you can use foil.
Foil.
Foil is a
I
good
never-
wrapper.
I guess I didn't think of it. But that's good suggestion.
Yes.
So if any of you run out of a paper, then you know what
You can use
You
foil.
newspaper, or you
Or
use
use
foil.
Yeah, that's
Or whatever else that you have that's kind of paperish.
just, but not only at Christmas time, but kids are just funny. I can remember during one of our, it was winter, it probably was during Christmas vacation, and one of my younger nephews came over to play with my younger son. They were good friends as well. And we had the type of land that you could go from the top of the house, and we had a pond down at the bottom, and they would just take their sleds and slide down. So I'm watching out the window, looking at the kids. I'm not outside. And they both slide down, and my nephew doesn't get up. He's like in the middle of the pond, and he doesn't get up. And I'm going, oh my God, the kid is hurt, you know. So Dick is home, and I send him my husband down to the kids to see what's going on, and the kid is just, he doesn't move. So Dick goes down there, and he says, well, he carries him back up, and I call my sister. I said, we're gonna have to meet you at the hospital because your son has been hurt. We're not sure how. And she goes, I wouldn't worry about it. I'm going, well, she's being pretty lighthearted about this. But so we meet him at the doctor's office. We get there, and he's fine. I mean, he didn't want to admit that that there was nothing wrong with it by the time my husband
Everybody's
had
going
gone
through
down and fawning over him and
panic
everything.
situation,
He wasn't
yes.
at all hurt. And so it was just, but my sister was right, because she knew how he reacted, about things like that. Of course, he also was the one that was attacked by a buck in his own backyard, and he does have a story about that. We're not sure how, that story, I think, grew a little bit too, so we're not sure about all that.
You know,
But
all
kids are
the
funny.
time that the kids are young, when they're real young, they have to know things. I mean, they'll ask you questions all the time. I know Donna told me about, one grandchild always saying, why,
The kid that says why in the back seat, no matter what you say, they say, why? But why? Why? Yeah, yeah.
Well, I wrote a story about when my grandkids visited, two of them visited Gunnersville. And it was in early spring, and I thought, gosh, we have to do something, we have to do something. And so we bought kites for them to fly. You know, it was just really kind of neat that, and they wouldn't go up. You know, I mean, it wouldn't go up, and the kids now will even mention this so many years later.
Because they remember the attempt at the kites.
Yes.
Yes.
And another story that I don't know if it's a little bit older, but my grandson was questioning my husband about, for some reason, my husband had said something about his he had Indians in his family. I mean, that his great grandmother was an Indian. And so then our grandson started out, well, if he was, if they were Indian, what did they call his wife? And my husband said, a squaw. What did he know? He didn't know what a squaw was either. And that was the term.
And that, in those years, that was the term.
Yes,
Either
it
was
was.
an American Indian or Native American or whatever. So it's just the way it was for us in those years in terminology and how the kid, because all the shows they watched, number one, were cowboys and Indians.
Yes,
I mean,
that's for
that's you know, we grew up with that, right?
Yeah.
You know, remember we grew up with Gene Autry and Roy Rogers and
Right.
the Masked Man.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger and Tonto, his friend.
That's his friend.
So that's just the way it was.
My grandson was persistent, though. You know, he said, well, are you an Indian chief now? Or do you have any, you know, Indian things that, and he wanted my husband to go to his a kindergarten and be the, you know, show and tell about him being an Indian, which he isn't an Indian, but I mean, you know, he's gonna, and so then my husband changed the story, and he says, well, you know, I had this other great grandfather, and he fought in the Civil War, and he was in a battle in the South, and he his arm got shot off. So then the grandson says, you know, what happened to the arm? We have to know about this arm, not this person or history or anything.
Just the
We gotta know
arm.
what happened to the arm. And so then my husband said, well, you know, he had to go back home because he lost an arm. And did he take the arm with him? And then when he got
that's
home,
funny.
did he bury the arm or what?
Well, you know, those are all legitimate questions. He probably, you know, he's a kid that wanted to know.
And it gets deeper and deeper, you know. I mean, if you start talking to kids and you give them answers, then it just continues to go on and on. I mean, you have to know that. If you're young parents, this is what.
Yeah.
But anyway, then my husband had to get out of it somehow. And he said, well, hon, why don't you ask your grandma about her her grandparents. They came over on a boat over the ocean. So I thought, there we go. We're on to another thing here. They're on a boat in the ocean. So, I mean, you know, these stories can go on forever with little kids asking questions.
They really want to know. One of the stories I remember my kids were teenagers and I had a lot of boys for kids. But they were like anywhere between 12 and 15 at this time. And I remember coming home one day and my oldest son decided to make pancakes. And I went into the refrigerator, was going to start supper and whatever, and he had made the pancakes earlier in the day, and I'm in the refrigerator looking for Herman. And
Who's Herman?
Well, as my next one in line said, well, Mom, Mike ate Herman. So I was never so happy in my life, though, that Mike ate Herman, because do you remember what Herman was?
Right, I had one. I didn't have a Herman, but I had.
We named him. That dough that grew itself, and then you were to give it away, and then you
And
have
had
to mix
keep-
it.
Yeah, and you had to bake every
week or something,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But fortunately and unfortunately, Mike ate Herman, so that was the best news I heard in a long time, actually. When
I
they said,
remember-
Mom, Mike ate Herman.
Long time ago, I took a jar of that stuff when we went on vacation.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know,
I was
'cause you
committed
had
to it.
to,
I mean,
'cause
I
you
was
were-
committed
yeah,
to that
we
jar of dough, you
we
know.
were committed to that. You know, one time they probably should have committed me is when my husband came home and I had just changed. I was changing one of my kids' diapers, and I walked at that time one bathroom. I mean, pretty much that's what we all had was one bathroom, and this my daughter was very, very young, and she was the newest one who was changing her diapers. I walked from her bedroom over to the bathroom. Now, at those times, we had the type of diapers that you had to rinse out in the toilet, and then you would, and then you'd wash. Then they'd go into a diaper pail, and you'd wash the diapers. So I went over there and I went to rinse the diaper out in the toilet, and there's no poopy in there, but I knew there was because I had just wiped her little rear end, and so I knew that there was poopy. And so I'm on the floor now in the hallway looking for that poop because I know it's got to be laying right in between there, and we're about to have company. So I'm on the floor. My husband walks in from work and he says, "What are you doing on the floor?" I said, "I'm looking for the poopy. I know there was poopy. I can't find it. And we're going to have company. I got to find this." He says, "Well, I got to take a shower." So I said, "Well, I guess it's just going to lay because I can't find it. I don't know where it went." So he goes in and he takes his shower. He comes out of the bathroom. He goes, "Donna, I found your poopy." He had it had lodged between the doorknob and the door, you know, and that's where it was. I was kind of glad he found it. I don't think he was happy about it, but we were having company, so it pleased me.
You know, it's these kinds of little stories that are just,
It's
you know, I mean, and
memorable.
they're not big events or
No,
anything. I
no.
mean, they're just little things that are
Silly.
part of your life, you know.
Silly little events that
Yeah.
that everybody actually has, you know.
But you know, it's the fun thing is the retelling of it because
Yeah.
somebody remembers it maybe a little bit differently, or it refreshes their memory about something that you know was special at that time, and you don't want to forget it. I remember 1969. We were down to my sister's house in Rockford, Illinois, and it was going to be the moon landing
Oh,
that night, and
yeah.
we were all prepared. That was our big thing. We had all the kids together. She had 4, and I had 3, and so here are these 7 kids. We put these great big comforters on the floor in front of the television, and all of them were lined up in that. On those comforters,
Yeah.
and watching the moon, you know, them landing on the moon, and we're all applauding and yelling and everything. And, you know, it's just, now that is a neat memory for me because it
It
was a
is.
sweet thing. And had something to do, it was historic. I mean,
Yes.
remember what you do in a historic thing because it's going to be a story forever and ever.
I remember when President Kennedy died.
Oh, yeah.
That was sad. That was really sad. But it was my son was he had just been born. He was born in July, and it was in November. And I remember watching As the World Turns when that event
Yeah,
happened.
it
was
came out, yeah.
Yep. And then Walter Cronkite came
Yeah.
on and gave us the news. But we all have those memories. I remember one of my oldest son's first word. You said I couldn't say it though.
No.
So, but I'll tell you, his first word, he was trying to say truck, but he didn't make it. So that was his first word. And we all looked and went, "Oh yeah, Mike is talking." No. Do you remember the kids trying to say spaghetti?
Oh yeah. My youngest son it was sketty, you know.
In ours, it was piscetti.
Sketty.
Piscetti. I had boys. What can I say?
I can remember my aunt trying to correct
Oh,
the
yeah.
kids to say, because she's real full-blooded Italian, and they never did.
Probably was
I mean, it
important to say
scary.
that, right? Yeah. Oh.
But those are just so refreshing to us because it takes us back to another time too.
It
A
does.
time when we were younger and we did all kinds of things and we were excited about everything that was happening in our lives and our families were growing. And so, we just really urge you to share those kind of
Share it with us.
stories. Yes, with us
Share it
and
with
your own
us,
families.
and then maybe we can talk about them too. Somebody
Yeah,
comes up with a
right.
good story that is funny, and I'm sure that there's many more that we've probably already forgotten.
Well, see, that's
because-
how I write my column. Is I
Yes.
listen to people talking, and then I'll say, oh my gosh, that's a good subject. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that we urge you to do that, especially if you're getting together over the holidays or anything special, a birthday or something, that you share because maybe the kids were so small they don't remember, or if you mentioned it, they would remember. So we appreciate your joining us today, and please like us. And we want you to like us. That's
Yes,
what
and
we're here for.
subscribe.
And
Subscribe.
we want you to subscribe to
Yes.
our podcast. We're getting a bunch of them made, and we're really getting excited about it. So
Yeah.
we appreciate your sharing with us. The other thing is to share with your friends. Let them know that this podcast is on, and that would be so good. We want to take it as far as we can. That would be really a fun thing. For us, that's what it is. For Donna and I, we
Just fun.
having fun. We're having fun. So
Thanks for coming.
thank you. And remember, it's always between you and me.